strategies and continuous threat management. I have an esteemed list of panelists who are going to come up. We'll quickly introduce them, have them come up and share their journeys and thoughts about this topic. First up, we have our moderator, Shreya Krishnan, an engineering manager at Google, followed by Tejaswani Ramachandran, principal engineer at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, Sarika Jain, senior principal software engineer, RSA Security, and Neha Gupta, senior principal engineer, RSA Security. One minute of awkward silence till we are tech set up. Oh, okay, yeah. If I do match the following, are you... it'll just be easier for the audience, I think, if you... Making life easier.
Hello everyone, am I audible? Okay, cool. Good morning, I am Shreya Krishnan. I lead the AlloyDB platform team at Google. Previous to this, I used to lead the data platform team in the Google Cloud SecOps, building advanced enrichment capabilities to provide context-aware threat detection and alerting. Prior to Google, I used to lead the trading systems compliance at Bloomberg, so I actively get involved with the DI efforts at both Google and previously at Bloomberg as well. So today we are here to discuss and explore proactive measures necessary for enhancing cybersecurity resilience against increasingly sophisticated attacks powered by generative AI. We are today in an era where the frequency and sophistication of cyber attacks are increasing, right? As organizations are moving towards a more digital landscape, we are adopting more newer technologies, and equally cyber criminals are also moving towards a more capable energy where they are using generative AI and new gen technologies, right? The rise of AI-driven attacks means that adversaries can now craft more nuanced and unpredictable and devastating attacks that can be very unimaginable a few years ago for us, right? This shift in threat capabilities means that we now have to move from a more reactive incident-based response towards a more proactive and resilient posture management. So what does proactive cybersecurity posture mean? It is not just the ability for us to be able to defend our cyber attacks. It also means being able to predict and to prevent these cyber attacks effectively, and also being able to recover rapidly when an attack happens, right? So we have a very accomplished panel with us today. Let's meet Tejaswani Ramachandran, who is the principal engineer at F5 with over a decade of experience in product security and compliance. She leads security incident response for product vulnerabilities and conducts in-depth security design and threat modeling assessment reviews and drives secure software development practices. Welcome, Tejaswani. Let's now meet Sarika Jain. She is a senior principal software engineer at RSA, working on the Secure ID Identity and Access Management solution, which provides a comprehensive secure identity platform. Her areas of expertise are advanced multi-factor authentication, passwordless, and many others. In 2023, she won the 10% Club Award in Jombe's 1000 Women Leaders program. She also actively mentors at various forums. Let's now welcome Neha Gupta, who is currently working as a senior principal engineer at RSA on identity security. She has deep expertise in developing on-prem IAM, federated identity management, and cloud IAM solutions. She is skilled in threat modeling, vulnerability analysis, secure by design, and fail-safe methodologies. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you, Shiv.
So we'll start off with opening thoughts from each of you. Tejaswini, do you want to go first?
So in the era of AI-driven kind of world, right, where the cybersecurity landscape is evolving very rapidly. So if you consider a development that's happening in over a year in cybersecurity, it's equivalent to a decade in another fields. So here the traditional reactive approaches are no longer sufficient for the AI-powered kind of attacks. So I think in this session we will delve into how we can shift from a reactive traditional way of approaching the things towards threat to a proactive things of incorporating various technologies and frameworks in an AI driven world.
Thanks, Tejaswini. Yeah. So in modern times, right, we know cybersecurity threats are increasing because of the advancement in the AI and the explosion of the devices, which widens the attack surface. So what is future-proofing? Future-proofing of cybersecurity it refers to the strategic approach which actually creates the security measures which can be adaptable and very robust to prevent current or emerging threats. And future proofing of cybersecurity, it's actually using the proactive strategy along with the continuous threat management so that it can help the organization to be ready for any future attacks. And it's very imperative for the organizations to be ready for this proactive strategy because it's important for their success and resiliency. So let's talk about how we can be future ready or how we can stay ahead in this never-ending game of security and attacks. Thank you.
Yeah, can't add more than what Tejaswini and Sarika already added. So in this, continuously evolving security, paradigm, how do we, how do we respond to these threats? So our adversaries are already taking, advantage of the AI. So how the security domain, right, the professionals, how the we defender, right, how can we also make use of that, AI techniques to be more proactive, to help in those strategies? That's what we would look, I'm looking forward to, have in covering up in this session.
Thank you all. So moving a little bit deeper into this topic, so we're talking about proactive strategies and how generative AI is influencing that. So how is generative AI specifically changing the threat landscape for organizations that face today? Where do you see like the reactive approaches falling short, right? Sarika, shall we start with you first?
Yeah, thank you, Shreya. Yeah, so it's a very relevant question. We know the advanced AI, right? It's definitely changing the landscape of cybersecurity threats. We as an attacker, right? Attackers are using this advanced AI to create very convincing or sophisticated attacks, which are very difficult by any traditional system to detect. So this is one of the biggest challenge where all the reactive systems are currently not able to cope up with. Other thing is automation capability of the AI. It's actually enabling attackers to launch more frequent attacks, which overwhelms our traditional systems. And also the simulation capability of AI helps the attacker to actually simulate all complex scenarios, which actually provides them the confidence or actually helps them to check their strategies, whether those are can create a major impact on the system. Other than that, with the recent study, LLM models can easily attack or hack the sites without any human intervention, which is very concerning. So considering all that, generative AI or advanced AI is definitely, it's a big risk or big challenge for all the organizations. And where all these reactive measures are falling short, as per my understanding, in the reactive measures, always react in the response of whenever the incident happens. Those are not proactive measures. So what happens? Incident happens, and after that, these reactive measures take some action to correct those or try to cope up with whatever damage is done by the proactive by the attacks. So because of this delay, there is a lot of data loss or maybe some personal data which gets compromised. So this is one of the biggest challenge. Other than that, reactive measures are completely dependent on historical data or the known facts, right? They don't know what is emerging in the market. So this is one of the area where these reactive measures will fall short. Yeah. Thank you, Shreya.
Thank you, Sarika. That was really very insightful. Neha, do you want to weigh in on this question?
Yeah, I think Sarika covered pretty much everything. So, but I would like to add, she already covered like there is, sophistication and there is the volume. So these two things they know. And the third very, important factor she again covered, like, these are like, the policies, the configuration. We have like, the systems are so vast and they are in the silos. The problem is living in the silos. You can have a lot of products, but everything in silos creates crack. And the attackers always makes basically take advantage of those cracks to get into the system. So that's the very important thing. So how do we now, right, if there is anything which is a configuration, right, even if you know like, okay, there is something happening, you would need a time to react and respond. That's the major thing, like, responding takes so much time. There is a manual delay. Somebody that you need, first of all, the very good class security, SOC team to basically tell on time that this is happening. But by the time you're trying to stop it, damage is already done. So that's the thing, main thing, like, even if you know, the damage is already done. People, do the reverse engineering. Okay, there had been a ransomware attacks, but it's already happened. Now you have to, tackle that problem right now, which is at the hand. So that's the most important thing, these reactive approaches are falling short. They are not able to take the speed and the volume, how these attacks are happening. There is the time in responding to that. So that's the thing I would say.
Thank you, Neha. Tejaswini, do you want to?
Yeah, like more than changing the landscape, I would say that the AI is redefining the cybersecurity landscape. So if you see the digital estate, like previously the organization had some couple of apps or things running in their environment. But now if you consider it has scaled up massively. So that digital estate has become increased. So the reactive approaches, why they fail short, because they have been designed to react to an attack. But the AI-driven attacks are not just an attack. The AI attacks are learning and adapting to evade the controls that are being put in place. For example, in 2021, there was a DDoS attack that was carried out on a financial institution with the help of the AI. The reactive approaches or the traditional approaches have been designed in a way to analyze a pattern. But the AI attack which was carried out was using the AI to generate a dynamic traffic which was easily able to evade the traditional approaches that was put in place. So the current solutions that we need is like, we should not just be answering the question, are we secure? It is like, are we prepared enough to kind of meet an enemy who is redefining the rules of war? Like we should not be kind of securing a castle with high walls where our enemies are dealing with, drones. So that's the thought from my side.
Yeah, that was really very apt. I think the traditional understanding of cybersecurity has changed with Gen AI and the new age technologies, right? Continuing from that thread, what do you see as like the biggest challenges organizations face when moving from a reactive to like a proactive posture management, right? Sarika, do you want to take this as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so definitely it's a very big challenge for the organization from moving from a reactive system to proactive measures, because as proactive frameworks or the proactive tools are in very nascent stage where they are just developing and they are just evolving, right? So in my opinion, the major challenges which organization face when they plan to move from reactive to proactive is, the first thing is proactive measures always rely on the threat intelligence. They need the latest information, what is happening, right? So they need the current evolving threats. So the traditional or the organizations, they are not ready or they are not up to the mark to connect or to actually use this to leverage this threat intelligence, which is very important for any proactive measure to work. So that is the first challenge which every organization is facing. The other challenge which what I feel is the budget constraint, because moving from reactive to proactive requires a lot of changes from the organization perspective to use latest tools or latest frameworks, right? So for the small organization, budget is a major challenge where they have to think about changing their entire system, so which requires a lot of finances to move from reactive to proactive. So that is another challenge, which it's a very big challenge, and organization have to think through before planning to move from reactive to proactive. The other challenge which I see is the skill gap. Like, we don't have enough skills available in the market where the security experts can help or can create or can integrate these kind of proactive tools or framework with the existing systems. So these are the major challenges, or what I feel like major areas where organizations have to work, and they have to create plan from moving to reactive proactive measures. Yeah. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Sarika. Neha, do you want to weigh in on this question?
Yeah, going back again to the same. So one thing which is very majorly, missing is like the visibility. So, currently we are talking about the hybrid, right? I have my mobile, I have my laptop, I'm accessing some application in a cloud. So actually organizations are struggling with, what is their perimeter? The perimeters are not there. No perimeter means they also got to get into some kind of strategies like a zero trust. But that's a mindset. We'll come to that. The other thing I would say, coming back to when you have so many things, right? So many assets, some are in cloud, some are on-prem, and there are different organizations. I'm just typically, talking about the security industry, but there are other industries where, their functionality is different, and they do not need these kind of things. They have been very much, coming from a different, one security person at the gate is good enough, though they are moving to the digital platform. So a lot of things happening there, but again, there is a lack of tools and the technologies, there, which can give the comprehensive visualization of what all their assets, the digital assets, especially I would just cover, keeping other industries. But that gap, right, the visualization gaps, right, again, creates a problem for the organization to understand what are their threats. So that's one other thing I would say. Skill gap, definitely, the way AI is advancing, we are humans, right? We are the weakest, link in that. So we are getting into problem because of our own creation. So yeah.
Thank you, Neha. I think you both touched upon an important aspect of threat intelligence, and how sharing of this knowledge between both private sectors and public sectors across organizations, I think is going to help us move the needle in that direction, right? So moving a little bit differently, what role does threat intelligence play in proactive cybersecurity, and how can it be effectively gathered and utilized? Tejaswini, do you want to take this?
Sure. Threat intelligence, to give an analogy, right, it's like a weather forecasting system for cybersecurity, without which it will be like a farmer reacting to a storm which had already destroyed the crops. This gives an visibility that a storm of threats that an organization may face, and it gives the organization a time frame to design their strategy, to plan their controls that they can put in their infrastructure security in order to mitigate any forthcoming kind of threats. So in order to have a proper threat intelligence in place, an organization would need a live feed of data, that is the live feed of threat indicators from the reliable sources. And also apart from the live feed of the data, they need some predictive analytics to kind of analyze the risks that are going to come and what kind of strategy can be put in. And also at the end, they need an insightful kind of things, like what kind of responses to be put in place. So this threat intelligence, what it is like, the proactive cybersecurity is like it gives us an edge on kind of analyzing what threats I could kind of imagine that would be coming in our way. But threat intelligence will help to kind of foresee those things. So that's what a major role is being played by threat intelligence in a proactive cybersecurity.
Thank you. Thank you, Tejaswini. Moving to a little bit different topic here. So AI and machine learning have like transformed many industries, as we all know today. And they've actually like really given us the up leveling for many industries, right? So how can we leverage this in cybersecurity to not only detect attacks, but also to like predict and be able to prevent it, right? What tools and strategies can we adopt as organizations to move us in this direction? Neha, do you want to take a stab?
Yeah, sure. So I think there are two parts to it. The first part, how AI and ML can, be helpful in this. So maybe before that, what organizations or companies have with them. That's more important. We are always about talking about the attackers, what tools they have, what are things they have. But what organizations do have? We have the data, right? We know about our resources. We know the kind of policies which are in place. We know what kind of files and systems, what kind of labeling is there, what kind of user access controls are in the place, right? But the only thing is there is too much of it also, and there is no centralization of these information. This information is there within the organization, but they are not connected. So to connect these things is the most important thing. Now, with advancement in AI, right, when hackers are taking advantage of, basically, changing the pattern, if we bring in an intelligence layer on top of this stack, right, what we have, the security stack, right, I shouldn't say the security stack, let it be, let it be our assets on the application. But if on top of that, let's talk about one intelligence stack, right? If that intelligence stack, right, can bring this contextual information for, who is accessing what from where, be it cloud or, be it on-prem, it does not matter which device. We have that information also, where the requests are coming from, who is accessing, what is being accessed, what time it is being accessed. So all this contextual information are there, but we cannot make the decision based on just some static policies. That's where the fallback is, and that's where I think the AI and ML, helps our community to, come and use this data to build up the intelligence. So it's very important that each and every organization builds up that intelligence within. And on top of what the Tejaswini just covered, right? This intelligence shouldn't be just what is built within. It has to be taken from outside as well, because the attacks when they occur right nowadays, you would see the radius attacks which are happening on the in the beginning of this year, on the VPNs. So what, there is a password spray attack happening across. So it's not only one attack, one organization, that's also one pattern to look for. It's not only attacking one organization. They are trying to attack as many at the same time, so that, they cannot respond. But if we had a way to basically, learn from others' intelligence, right? So basically this intelligence layer, if it can take advantage of others' intelligence, the external intelligence, that's where, AI and ML can again come and help us, mitigate the things and be proactive than being reactive. So that's the one thing. The second question, right? How do we, what kind of strategies and the tools, right? So I think the strategy, there are a lot of strategies, even, we learned in the previous session as well, like the strategies, but I would just like to add, this intelligence sharing, right? Any platform and technologies, right? Now the new technologies are coming up to share this intelligence. I'll just take one example. In the OpenID, we have a shared signal framework. So responsibility of that is only to share the intelligence about the entity, the identity, the weakest link in the system, right? So it is about that. So sharing, I would say, is the very core part of it. So our strategy should always take care of sharing the intelligence back as well, and also taking from inside as well. So that would help us in the long run.
Thank you, Neha. That was really insightful. I think like kind of the flip side to this is also over the past few years, we've seen many companies show reservations in adopting AI, right? So they're pretty skeptical about what AI can bring to us, right? So are there any threats or risks that we see with AI? Tejaswini and Sarika, do you want to weigh in on that?
So the main risk I see with AI is the lack of transparency. So you don't know, like, how the model has been built, what kind of data it has been trained with, what are all the biases it has, and also some of the threats are like, there could be model theft also. So any Avengers movie watchers would know, right? In the movie like Avenger Age of Ultron, where Ultron overpowered Jarvis and it took out whole control of it. So we could see like when there is a lack of monitoring or the control put in place, what devastating effect it can bring in by doing a model theft. So it is like a kind of a double-edged sword where we could leverage it for our, protectiveness. At the same time, it comes with its own risk altogether. So Sarika, to you.
Yeah, so I think Tejaswini has covered most of the most important points. So as Neha mentioned, right, I mean how AI can be useful for detecting this latest or emerging threats, right? But still companies have their own apprehension about using the AI. So what are the risks, right? So the first thing which I feel is like AI models can be trained or AI model can be learned or they can actually spread the biases through their training data, which can actually cause some kind of unfair results, right? Which is like very major concern from AI, from the usage of AI perspective. The other thing is as all of you have heard about deepfake videos and a lot of misinformation is getting spread through AI, right? So AI can help the attacker to create something which is very convincing, right? So this is a major concern, like AI can be leveraged by all the attackers to misinform the society, which is a major concern and which can create a lot of damage to our society. So companies are definitely concerned about it. Data privacy is another reason where a lot of data is collected by AI, which includes a lot of personal information also. And we don't have transparency or we don't have the knowledge or understanding how our data is getting used or how our actually usage is another part, but from the security perspective, how our data is stored, right? So security at rest, that is also very important concept in case of cybersecurity. So these are the major concern and these are the major, blockers for the organization to think about how, when or how they can adopt to AI, as per my understanding. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sarika. As we move toward a more proactive security, what frameworks and tools do you think will become more relevant in the next 3 to 5 years, right? There are some emerging security technologies and approaches like zero trust, I think Neha you mentioned this, and threat hunting that organizations should start adopting probably, right? Sarika, Neha, do you want to weigh in some thoughts on this?
Yeah. Yeah, so from cybersecurity perspective, the current framework which are very critical in next 3 to 5 years as per my knowledge, which are very important is the zero trust. I think every organization is going towards zero trust where they are actually moving from password to passwordless and FIDO is becoming very, very common nowadays. So that is one of the important thing which is very picking up very fast and which will be like very critical in upcoming 3 to 5 years. The next thing is NIST frameworks, which actually the policy framework which are very common for securing the computer security. The other things are very commonly used or very critical are like MITRE knowledge base where you can get information about all the current threats which are happening in the system. And other than that, we have something like, these are like framework which really help for the organization to gain information about the current threats which are happening. From emerging technology perspective, as per my understanding, the AI and ML, as we have discussed in this session also, right? AI and ML is very it's actually in very nascent stage, and we have to explore it further, how this can be used to make our system more secure. Other thing is about the behavioral biometric, where our identity system or identity security can use user behavior pattern and can make our system more secure. Other thing is quantum computing. I think Ragni already covered in her presentation how quantum computing has become kind of concern in case of encryption, right? But apart from encryption, it has a capability which actually can help to make our system more secure. And other than that, blockchain and the cybersecurity mesh architecture, which is actually coming up very fast. From proactive measure perspective, which I see, the important thing is the threat hunting. So threat hunting plays a very important role where the expert try to search the network where actual threat is happening, right? Before it actually occurs, they try to find out all the weak points in the system and they try to actually safeguard those. So that is a very important measure for proactive technology perspective. Other than that, we have something like secure by design, right? So secure by design is definitely, it's very important. Like even before developing our system, we have to think about the security, right? We have to think about how this system is robust enough and how it will not fall into any kind of trap. So authentication or authorization, these are the basic things which we have to make sure and implement in our system. And I think Neha already covered about shared signal framework, leveraging intelligence, security feeds. So these are the things which are very important from our future framework, the proactive framework perspective. Yeah, thank you, Neha.
Yeah, adding to again to the same, maybe I'll just take a couple of examples which you added. Like, so the zero trust, right? We say like now it requires a continuous, validation and the authentication of, any access. So I'll just take an example here, how this zero trust, can be, is seen, how it is being implemented right now by the organization. So the first time, right, when you enter any system, right, you say, you authenticate yourself, right? We just start from there. But here we just don't say at the beginning you do the authentication. And when you enter any identity is entering into your system, you just don't do at the beginning. Once the authentication is done also, we keep checking that. Is this the person's right person? Does this identity require this access? Is it accessing something which it has not done before? Is it again going back to I would say, like, basically, is it going back again to accessing something or doing something very malicious? Maybe this user never did this kind of, and it has failed in this authentication 4 times, which is never expected. That means there is something happening. So going back to the same thing, like this authentication has to happen in between the session as well. So it's not like once you get somebody gets into the system, you just are done. No, we again going to from perimeter to at the individual level, at each microservice level, or basically a unified policy level. I was just talking about the intelligence layer. So you go back to this intelligence layer and keep feeding this data of authentication. Is it still a good session? There is something happening, abnormal? Then only we can, let's stop it there itself. So that's what's like, again, advocating the same zero trust things, how industry is following the zero trust now. The second thing is like sharing on information. Again, going back to the same thing, I'll just take one example on that, we have, when any attack happens, right, basically there are intelligence services out there. So you have to make use of, these intelligence services. So these intelligence services can tell, hey, these are the IPs, the Tor IPs where the attacks are happening. So, you keep blocking them much more in advance. So I'm just trying to give some examples like how the tools and technologies, you need to just have a shift in the, mindset, how you choose your tools and technologies as well. Because zero trust is a strategy, but you would need the tools and technologies which can help you reach there. So anything, organizations are looking, they need to look, does it have the behavioral analysis part? Basically an intelligence, I say that way, because that's like the super term, but yeah, does it have that? And then again, like, can it do my, session validation at every stage? So if these are like key capabilities, if organizations start looking and asking their vendors to provide these kind of features, that's where the industry would go more. Security companies are already doing their part, but yes, as a organization, you need to look at that. And the second very important thing when you are signing up any vendor is, are they taking a pledge for secure for design, secure by the design? If not, then there is something wrong, because they haven't built the security from the bottom. When they were designing, the security was not in their concern, so it cannot be built at the end. It has to be grained at at the very beginning layer, when we are designing the product. So all our vendors have to be asked these kind of questions, and that's where the industry moves. It's not something like a one step, it's like a gradual process. So
Yeah, thank you, Sarika and Neha. I think you touched upon like really key things, especially for this audience, where this is also with respect to like for early careers, for students. What are like the focus areas that you should be looking at if you want to build a career in cybersecurity, right? So threat hunting and also like zero trust. All of these are like very fundamental to how we design our software and how do we think about security in general, right? Tejaswini, as we AI technologies continue to evolve, what do you think are like the next frontier threats that we should be preparing for, right? And how do you think organizations can stay ahead of these like potential threats and risks?
So definitely, AI comes with its own risk and threats, right? For example, now there has been a growing incidence on deepfakes. How several institutions have lost money because of the deepfakes, which looks very realistic, right? Where they mimic the executives and they do the authorized transactions. And now the phishing emails are so authentic that they evade the controls that have been put in place. So the deepfakes and using the AI models, now the attackers are coming up with polymorphic malwares, where it is kind of reading what defense strategies are put in place by various companies, and it is adapting, and it has been able to successfully evade the controls that have been put in place. So in order to put certain things right, we have to diversify the AI models that an organization is planning to adopt, because this diversification of AI models will prevent a single point of failures. And it's not that you just put one AI solution in place and leave it unmonitored. So that would be a catastrophic kind of thing. Even though AI is put in place, there should be a human intervention which keeps on monitoring the solution, and we need to kind of check that AI solution by kind of giving the verified data and checking whether it is producing the output it is intended to and for what it was developed for. So these two things I would say.
Yeah, thank you, Tejaswini. I think we'll take a couple of like audience questions if there is any.
Hello. So my question is with respect to zero trust. So the companies leverage a lot of APIs. So when we are logging in from the web, like the zero trust makes sense. I just can scan QR code. But with respect to API, we need to share some kind of username, password, or an API key. So in that perspective, how come the zero trust will play? Because like lot of companies, companies, like they leverage APIs, and there is a business running on there. So I also need like lot of threats also happening there. And now like the threat is very advanced. They are changing the IP within like milliseconds. So I have faced that issue personally. So how we can like manage zero trust in API perspective?
yeah, so I think okay. Yeah. So definitely, if we say about API security, right, there is a traditional way of securing the APIs would have been like, with the static credentials. But nowadays, right, when you see, right, we do not go with those kind of static credentials anymore. What we do is like, the static credential is not there, we do basically a session-based authentication. So even if you grant some, access, basically it has a duration inspired by it. Basically it has a session granted for it, so that session is not expanded. But again, whether you use the static credential would again come, bring you back, because if somebody has cracked that, you're gone. So there is something called like basically credential rotation also which happens. So we have to make use of those techniques as well, like you rotate your credential, let's say every 24 hours, depending on like how sensitive that particular application is. Again another problem would come, like how do you share that credential back, because that channel has to be secure. But there are standards being developed also. Many a times you would see they are like companies are having their proprietary way of the ways, but look for the standards. There are standards out there, go for the standards, and so that you can even apply the same technique with the other API, other product which has a similar type of API need and all. So that's one thing I would say. And yeah, definitely I think a half part of it like covered up, like you need to rotate it, you need to have it session based, it cannot be. But at the same time, again, sorry, again, like going back to even that API endpoint, right, has to be considered as a resource in a system. It cannot be something like, isolated. It has to be considered part of the system. That means the intelligence layer which is talking, right, that has to be a kind of central part of it. Okay, this is happening. This API is being accessed, this endpoints are being accessed. So that information again going back to, to the system. And then, if it sees some malicious thing, like, this API endpoints are not supposed to, get the token and, get the access to a particular resource. It has to be stopped. So system got to communicate with each other, and that only can happen when we have a standards around it. So of course we are seeing a lot of standards coming up together. Security industry is more united before, I should say. So but yes, we need to make advancement. We shouldn't do those static security based approaches. We shouldn't follow them.
Hello.
Does it answer you?
This is Shogita, Director for InfoSec from NetApp. So my question is, we do threat intelligence, and now we are moving to a lot of AI-based models and cloud solutions, right, because of that. So how do we, right, what are your recommendations to ensure our data is safe in those models, in that cloud environments, right? We see a lot of things theoretically in internet and all, and now in ChatGPT. But I want to hear your first-hand experience. How do you ensure it is all safe and secured, and we still go in advanced technologies and do threat intelligence and all?
So I would say, like, to make sure whether my assets in the cloud are secure or not, basically I would rely back on incorporating the framework. You have various NIST kind of frameworks which lets you kind of know to implement the controls. So those are very standard frameworks which you can rely upon. Second thing I would suggest is doing an auditing, right? And repeated or kind of scheduled audits would help you determine whether there has been an attack or not. See, if you're not knowing, there are some cases where an attack has happened and they have not known that an attack has happened because there was no proper auditing done. So relying on a framework and periodic auditing would help us to know, kind of secure these things. And also it helps us to kind of have that guarantee that we are secure.
I will just add one more thing. The auditing is actually a proactive approach. The thing is, why the standards are built upon, right? Because we see there is a gap, and if you do these things, you may not lead to that place. So I think that pretty much, covers. If you do that auditing, you are anyways discovering what are your threats, what are your, attack, like, cracks in your system. Where are the cracks there? So you identify them by doing this.
Hey, hi, I'm Sumana. I'm also a part of Shogita's team. You're not able to hear? Okay. So, no, it's So my question is, like we are aware about zero-day vulnerabilities, right? So what are the steps the organization should take when comes to a zero-day vulnerability? That means like what are the proactive strategies the organization should follow when it comes to zero-day vulnerability?
So, the purpose of proactive measures, right, is actually not to reach to that stage. Identify your threats beforehand so that your system will not get compromised, right? So that is most important. And I mean, from zero-day vulnerability perspective, you should be continuously monitoring your system, safeguarding your weak points, and making sure those weak points are not putting your system on on any kind of risk. So that is more important. And if you have this kind of continuous monitoring, you can very early in the attack stage, right? Very early you can detect those attacks, and you can disconnect your most critical component from your entire system, right? So this will really help for you to contain that attack, right? So this proactive measure, like, it's not a single strategy, or it's not a single solution. It's like in every stage of your entire system, you have to put something as a defensive mechanism. So by using the proactive measure, you can actually reduce the attack surface, and you can actually safeguard all your weak points.
To add to Sarika's thing, right? Yeah. Like if you're developing a product and you want to minimize the zero-day vulnerabilities that are arising out, I would say, like, putting proper security strategies while developing a product. Like for example, once your product is being developed, it's not just a one-time effort. You have to bake it from the start. For example, doing a threat modeling when you're designing your product, and then you are putting your product into pen testing. Either you can do it in-house or you can do it with an external thing. It's not like after you release it to the market, you do these things. Before only releasing, you do a proper DAST, SAST kind of things, tools being run, and you do a proper pen testing. This will kind of minimize your zero-day things. So that I would suggest.
Yeah. Thank you all of you. I think they were very interesting questions and really amazing thoughts there. So I think we are out of time, so let's close on one topic, which if you could offer like one piece of advice to organizations trying to enhance their cybersecurity posture in the era of like AI and generative AI in specifics, right? So what would you suggest that would be? So let's start with you, Tejaswini.
I would suggest, like, to implement humans plus machines. It's not like you put in an AI and let it go unmonitored. Definitely AI is an ally where we have to use the AI to amplify the human's expertise in kind of developing the strategy and the unified defenses against the threats. So that would be my thought.
Yeah, so what I feel like one single framework or one single strategy is not enough for all the organization. And to stay ahead in this, this kind, in this advanced attack kind of scenario, right? Every organization has to be like, they have to make sure they have the continuous vigilance and they have holistic approach for that, right? And the major thing, like, we should try to leverage AI and ML, how we can safeguard our weakest point. And the other thing which I feel like from organization perspective, right, they have to actually educate their workforce, their employees also, to understand that security is first, to make sure their organization can succeed and it can be resilient against any major attacks.
Yeah, so I would just say, like, as a developer, to be there, take the, build anything, defense in depth, do those things at the first. If we are doing those things, AI definitely is there. So those things are there to help us, but at least we can take care of the basic things first, keep the basic sanities. That's the most important thing also to, not forget. And the zero trust is there. Do not trust anything moving in the system.
Yeah, thank you all of you. This was really very insightful.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.